This is TurboDog702. I'm just making a quick video here because I've gotten a couple questions about this, primarily even today on the 24th of October 2016. I'm gonna try at least to make a short video. It's regarding the Parasite Eve doing the worm fight, which is a part of day 2. This video that I'm reviewing is part of my PB, the 30758. It's on the local capture. If you are looking at the video that I have posted on my YouTube, it happens at about 43 minutes in the video. And you can kind of review the steps that happened on the way to there, but I'll try to review as much as I can on the way there. So let's kind of get into this. I should be capturing my mouse cursor, so I'll try to point out some minor stuff as we do this. So the first thing to notice is you have 4 worms to start out with. Pretty easy. This first cycle here, where all the worms pop out, it's possible to shoot the worm on the right here before the end of this cycle, but that runs into some problems. Number one, it's very possible that you miss one or all of the shots on it. It's possible you don't get your ATB fast enough, and even if you do get your shots off, it's possible that your ATB doesn't refill fast enough for the next part. So definitely, unless you're really trying to go for world record strats, and even then, I'd recommend not shooting on this first kind of intro to the boss. The first person, or the first worm that's going to pop up after this is always going to be this center worm. So you want to try to position yourself in such a way that you can shoot it immediately. In Parasite Eve, being closer increases your chance to crit, which is beneficial, particularly for this. You're going to notice I get an excessive amount of crits kind of in this fight, but I'll try to talk about some of the steps you can do if you don't get so many. So you're going to see me take 2 shots immediately, and this worm is going to shoot, and it's going to go potentially over you. There's 2 different things you can get. You can either get a spread shot that shoots all around in a circle around the around the place where it explodes from its projectile attack, or you'll get this spread. If you stand relatively close, this first shot, if it does the fan, I don't think I've ever seen it hit me on a fan, and if it does the spread, it has a pretty good chance of not hitting you as well, just because of the arc that it comes out at. But those are the 2 main things. It's also possible for the worms to melee you. If they melee you, you're in trouble. I mean, there's really nothing you can do about that if you're trying to push crits like I am in this video. You just gotta kind of roll with it. To be completely honest, this is probably, I'll say, the second hardest fight in the game. It very well could be the hardest. Just because of how early it is and how much you kind of want to push the pace and how much time you can lose if things go wrong. But let's continue on. So you want to shoot that middle one first. Now the next thing to notice is the worm on the right, despite the fact that all these other worms go up and down, this one on the right is actually going to come up next. So you'll see in this video they all pop down, and that worm is going to be the next one to come up. So what you want to do is you want to go middle for the first shot, to the right for the next shot. And once again, it's going to shoot. And what's nice about this is, usually since you're getting a real quick ATB on this, you should have a full ATB, you can kind of react to how it shoots here. And again, because it goes kind of a certain distance before your shot, you get a nice open space that you can kind of dodge in between these. That's something that I guess you could take as a little bit of a tip, although it's a little bit more obvious, I think, is the further you are away from the worms, the more of a spread that's going to be in between each of the individual spikes. Something else to also note is that when there's so many worms out, when there's 4 or 3 of them, they really don't do a lot of damage. It's only when they start getting into the 2 worm range that the damage gets much, much higher. So don't be afraid to take a few hits. One of the other pieces of advice I would give is trust your CM best. So if you're really trying to push down times, you have to get familiar with the kill ranges of bosses, like when you're in danger of dying and when you're not. You can very easily kind of attrition this boss out by using a lot more heals, but you got to keep in mind that your heal is not going to outpace the damage of the worm when there's 2 of them or less. So at some point, you got to decide, like, you're all in at this point. Like, there's not much you can do about it at that point. So you see I shoot that one. The next thing that's going to come up is it can either be the one at the bottom or the one in the middle. But we're going to shoot for the one in the middle. And the reason for that is by shooting this one in the middle a second time, you should get a kill on it. And that kill will allow you to open up more visible space for yourself to kind of move around. Okay, and that was 2 shots normal, and I think I got a shot and a crit as the other ones. Okay, so that's one worm down. Something else to note is the worm that has, I'm not sure about this 100%, but I think the worm that takes the most damage will always go to the center. So the worm that was over here that's already been shot is going to go to the center next. So they'll swap places. Okay. So your next goal here is to try and shoot this worm and kill it. Okay. Sometimes you get the kill, sometimes you don't. I believe in this video I get enough crits, yeah, that I actually get the kill on him. If you don't get the kill here, then your next shot is going to be at the bottom worm. And then after the bottom worm, you're going to go to the top again. Okay. The goal in this is to try and get down that second worm so you set up a 2-worm situation. You'll notice here I kind of stay far away because I'm not aiming to hit this guy. Like, I'm not going to get anything by being close to him. So I back off, give him his space, let him shoot, and try to abuse the amount of space that I get in between the spikes. And I just barely make it there. It should be noted also that if you use pause buffering, you can easily verify where they're going to shoot and make a dodge adjustment on that. I would highly recommend using that if you're new to this game. It doesn't take that much extra time, and it's way, 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 way safer. You'll complete runs much more often. So here we once again see the worm kind of shooting, and because I was far away and ran in, he actually lobbed his bomb further back than normal. So once again, I get a nice patch of range. So I start shooting the middle. So this is where it gets kind of complicated, and you have to pay attention. So there's 2 worms left. What do I know about the HP of these worms? Well, I didn't shoot the one on the bottom, so I know both of these worms are at full HP totals. If you had shot the worm at the bottom, because you didn't kill the middle one fast, then it's a potential, or there's a potential that that worm will have less HP than the one on the left, and you need to adjust on that. So what you're doing here is you're trying to pay attention to how many times you shoot the left one or the right one, and how many crits you get. And the goal is to try to kill them at roughly the same time. So if you find that you hit 2 crits on one of these worms, you might have to double up on turns on the other worm to kind of get it on the same health total. So pay attention to when you crit and when you don't. And try to work off of that. And you start to get a feel for about how long the fight's going to take. Once again, melee from these worms is devastating. There's not a lot you can do about it. You just got to kind of eat it. So something I do want to point out here is that you can't really see it here, but there is a line of shadowed branches that kind of goes up this way and up here. I believe the Wood 82, who's a person that ran this game briefly, we discovered a spot that's roughly kind of at the intersection of the 2 branches and a little bit up. It's somewhere around here, I want to say. If you stand there, the likelihood of a shot hitting you is actually fairly low, and if it would, you can easily kind of sidestep slightly. The disadvantage to this is it's slower because you do reduce the amount of crits you get, and it's not a 100% guarantee you're not going to get hit. But it is something to keep in mind. You might want to explore that a little bit for yourself. So it's roughly in this area. There's like an intersection of 2 branches, and you take like 2 steps up from that or so. So here you see me trying to manage how much damage I've dealt. I've crit the middle one twice, so I have to pay attention to that. Or crit the one on the right twice, sorry. Luckily, I crit once on the left, so they're still roughly at the same health. And I can kind of work off of that. This is a risky shot, and I get kind of punished for it as it dives down. So now I'm at about 1 crit ahead on the one on the right, and I have to adjust for that. Right here, I get lucky on the reload and manage to kill, and I've done enough damage to the one on the left with my crits that I get a 1-turn kill on the large worm. So about the large worm. when we're talking about optimal setups, you really do want to try to kill. So, in the ideal scenario, right, you've done perfect damage to both the left and the right worms. And you can just go, my turn is up, and they both came up at the same time. I'm going to shoot each of them once and kill them both at the same time. That's the land of TASes. It'll happen, but quite frankly, I've found the vast majority of time trying to set that up and wait for them to both be up and have the perfect health and everything else. It just takes way longer than taking the shot and taking the shot at the larger worm that comes up. So it is slower, but realistically, it's probably faster. And here you realize I'm not afraid to take some hits here. Like, I took a 26 hit there. I'm at 55. 55 isn't really dangerous for these. If they were to hit me with any attack right now, my CM Vest would proc and I'd use medicine. The only time that 55 is dangerous is on the big worm. The big worm, it's dangerous because when the big worm hits you with its melee, it does approximately 61 damage. If you're not getting any armor upgrades, really. That's enough to be able to kill me. And even if you have the revive isn't a catch-all against this boss, because what happens a lot of the time is you'll get hit for 61, die. The revive timer goes off, and you go through the revive animation, but the boss's ATB is still rolling when that happens, and yours is not. So what happens more often than not is when you revive on the big worm gets its turn before you, and then kills you again. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot. So, I mean, this isn't like really the best tutorial, I guess. I'm trying to give you some hints and some tips on what you can do to be successful. But like I said, this kills a lot of my runs, even when I was grinding for a world record, like exclusively. Like, this is a very, very difficult fight to do well, both because of the variance on crits, the variance of where they can shoot the balls and how they spread, and the fact that I personally don't want a pause buffer to dodge things. So for a beginner or somebody that's not nearly getting close to the times, still trying to break the 3:15 mark, I would say use pause buffering. You know, pause out, see where the spread's going to happen, and work from there. You're okay to heal for the first couple of worms, but once you get down to 2 worms, you can't really be healing. You just got to trust in your CM Vest. And just really commit. Try to pay attention to how much damage you're doing. We're going to go through the fight one more time in real time, give or take. And I'm going to kind of go ahead and talk through it. This is the fight before. Oh, I guess another thing. Make sure that you use up all your BP. Make sure you use up your ammo. Or restore your ammo before the fight as well. Because you don't want to get caught reloading at a bad time, like I kind of did. And you'll see me do that. I even heal at the beginning of this, because again, I don't want to heal during the fight. It's much faster to do it outside of combat as well. Okay, so the fight's going to start, and you're going to see me immediately go towards the center platform, right here. I'm going to wait for this phase to go by, because again, it's very unlikely I'll get a shot off. I wait here. Immediately when this worm shows, boom, shoot him twice. Alright? Then I get a little bit of time to potentially dodge these shots that might come from this way. This worm over here, if it shoots, there's like no way it's going to reach you. If it does reach that far, you're going to be able to dodge it easily. So like immediately when you do those two shots, like confirm them, immediately start looking at who's shooting and where they're shooting. I go to the right. I immediately shoot as that one comes up, and I'm looking to see where the ball's going so I can dodge it. Back to the center. Shoot this guy twice. He's going to die off of this. I know that for sure. Now, this one's going to come to the center. If it kills, great. If it doesn't kill, I go to the bottom, then go back to the center and get the kill. And then I need to pay attention that that one's been hit in the right. From here, I just try to establish some space in between my shooting so I have extra room to dodge in between the shots. And I just try to balance the damage that I'm doing between each of the worms. Okay? And from there, it kind of plays out pretty simply. The worst things that can happen is you get meleeed, or you leave the worm at the bottom with way too much health. So do be cautious about that. Again, sometimes you can get away with a revive. That in fact happened to me at RPG Limit Break. I had to use a revive on the boss, but I still managed to get the kill. So, it's not impossible, but don't count on it. Try not to be greedy with these shots either. You have all the time in the world. And that's basically the worm fight for Parasite Eve. Hopefully that was able to help some people out. I know my tutorial didn't do the best job at showing it. I had a pretty poor fight in it, but hopefully this worked it out. So just to quickly reiterate again. So your shot order is going to be, once I get all these worms out. Okay, your shot order, middle, right, middle, dead. Middle again, hopefully dead. If that isn't dead, you go bottom, middle again, and then he'll die. And then it's left and right, okay? So middle, right, middle, middle, down, middle, left, right, okay? All right. Once you get into the fight, you'll kind of pick it up, but that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this helps.